In the last few years, Owlcat has truly emerged as one of the great studios of our times. They've made Pathfinder Kingmaker an excellent game. They've made Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous, one of, if not my favorite CRPGs of all time. And they've made Rogue Trader, which is not really at the top of my list, but I'm not really a Warhammer 40k guy anyway, so I'm not one to talk on that subject. But I do know they're an excellent development studio, and they've proved it over time. The DLCs they brought out for Wrath of the Righteous have been fantastic. I've started a new playthrough and hope to enjoy the DLC The Dance of Mass that dropped not too long ago. But there's a lot more going on with Owlcat than meets the eye, and a lot more than the games they've just made. And I'm here to bring you some interesting news, because Owlcat is really busy. They have a lot of things they're working on, and it's time to talk about some of this. Now, not too long ago, there was a Reddit post, about 2 months ago to be specific, that talked about some massive potential spoilers for the company itself involving Owlcat regarding how many employees they have, what they're working on, specifically the games they're working on, and much more specifically, the total number of games they're working on. And this was the doozy. The guy claimed that Owlcat is currently developing 4 games with 4 separate teams. Now, I saw the Reddit post and I read through it and I thought, okay, that's interesting, but where's the evidence? Where's the evidence that Owlcat is actually doing this? Because a single studio working on 4 different games is a very big project, or several big projects, so to speak, to say the least, and I couldn't find anything. Until I stumbled upon some evidence that there had been a Russian language interview with the CEO of the company. Now, I'm not a Russian speaker, nor do I speak Russian in any capacity. So I happen to have a Russian friend that's also into Wrath of the Righteous, and I forwarded it to him, and he was kind enough to go through the interview and relay all the major points to me, and he basically confirmed what this Reddit post said, but in greater detail, and we're going to go through some of these details that he illuminated for me. Now, a couple of things. You have to understand that Owlcat has grown tremendously over the last couple of years. When Owlcat was working on Kingmaker, they had a total of about 30 developers working on Kingmaker. That's not a very big team. It's not nothing, but it's not very big. Now they have 500. And with this team of 500, they are slowly but surely working on 4 separate projects from my understanding. The teams have been divvied up and delegated to these 4 separate projects. Now, as far as I understand, the CEO did say that some of these projects are being given more weight than others in terms of how much attention is being paid to them and how much time and investment is being paid to them. But it does seem to be the case that long term, Owlcat is in fact working on 4 different games of varying scopes. We know next to nothing about the details of the games. We know that at least one of the games will not be in the Unity engine and that it will be made in the Unreal engine. And we know this for a variety of reasons, not least of which because Owlcat advertised positions for developers and people to contribute on the project who have experience with Unreal. Now, working in Unreal, going from isometric RPGs, seems a pretty big leap in step, but I'm confident they can do it. But whatever that game might be, it'll probably not be a CRPG for obvious reasons. In fact, if the rumors are true, we're told that it's going to be some kind of action game, which sounds a little odd for Owlcat, but who knows, it could be very good potentially. As for the other 3 titles, we don't know the details. Now, many of us, myself included, wouldn't mind another Pathfinder game. They might be bored of Pathfinder, who knows, but I wouldn't totally take it off the table, because of all the publishers they worked with, the CEO stated this, they have the best relationship with Paizo, who is the publisher and maker of Pathfinder. So maybe a little hope there, but in general, they seem to be very open-minded to making possibly anything. In fact, the CEO mentioned that they might even be potentially open to the idea of a grand strategy game along the lines of, say, Crusader Kings. At least that's what my Russian friend told me. And that would make sense if you think about it, because one thing I don't like about Owlcat games, and I might be the weirdo here, is the management/strategic non-RPG aspects that are always tacked onto the game. In Kingmaker, you had kingdom management and all the timers. I hated the timers. And of course, in Wrath of the Righteous, you have crusade management. I think that Owlcat, as a bunch of developers, really like management and grand strategy as a principle or concept. And so every time they make an RPG, they tend to weave these other aspects from grand strategy into the game which I must say I personally don't like. I find them distracting and they take away from the overall story. But I think Owlcat is very much dedicated to this, and regardless of the type of RPG they make, these strategy elements will always make their way into the game because they seem to like them a lot. And thank the gods for mods that allow you to avoid things like kingdom management or crusade management. Now, of these 4 games, apparently they've already begun production with 2 of them about 2 or 3 months ago, meaning that 2 months ago they've actually started to work on these things in a somewhat active fashion. So the fact that Owlcat is working on 4 different games, not simultaneously but long term, is probably the biggest news. But the interview in Russian, I'm told, with the CEO revealed a lot of other things, and it's probably important to mention them as well. For example, as I already mentioned, that they're potentially open to making a grand strategy game of some sort, but at the moment they're mostly invested in RPGs. Now, one thing that probably shouldn't surprise you that was revealed during the interview is the fact that in the future, their games will be voiced. At least that's what the CEO said he wants to do. And as far as I understand, based on the Russian interview that my friend explained to me, essentially he said that Baldur's Gate 3 set this new precedent. It's very much a voice game, and the cinematics and the voice acting are some of the biggest selling points of the game, period. I've made this claim many times on my channel, and I still believe it. I think Baldur's Gate 3 was hugely popular with people, even though many of them had no experience with RPGs, let alone with CRPGs, because of the cinematics and because of the voice acting. That seems to draw in the biggest numbers of quote-unquote normal people. And the CEO of Owlcat, realizing this, is thus obviously intent on adding voices to their future games. And indeed, even though I haven't played it yet, I'm told that Dance of Mass is fully voiced, which would certainly be a move in this direction. On top of all of that, Owlcat is going to be publishing games for people. They're going to become a game publisher. And that's very telling. It tells you how much they've grown over the last couple of years and how popular they've become, because how else could you publish games for other people if you were very small? So all the evidence suggests that Owlcat has done very well indeed over the last couple of years. The fact that they're going to be a publisher, the fact that they have a team of 500 developers, the fact that they're working on 4 different games, albeit not really simultaneously. And all this tells us that we have a lot to look forward to from this studio. It's not the end, but just the beginning for these guys. Now, I personally support Owlcat so much that I bought Rogue Trader, even though I have very little interest in the game. Maybe one day I'll play it. It's not really my thing, so who knows if I'll like their games in the future. I am, as I've said many times, much more of a Pathfinder/D&D type of guy, and I definitely hope one of these 4 games they're working on is that type of game, ultimately. But we won't know until it's all revealed. But anyway, do let me know in the comment section what you'd like to see them make. Obviously, we don't have direct influence, but it'd still be interesting. They're working on 4 different games, and apart from the one action game in Unreal Engine, the others appear to probably be in Unity. So let me know what you'd like to see from Owlcat, and as always, thank you for tuning in. And if you like my content, you can leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe. It really helps out the channel and be much appreciated, and I'll check you out next time. Take care.